Ladies, gentlemen, and any other people out there, and welcome to another edition of Heavy Hands. I'm Connor, your host. That's Phil. I don't know why I'm talking like Wallace from Wallace and Gromit, but
I'm here.
Phil's here. He has acknowledged the introduction. How long until I start getting annoyed by it?
Acknowledging it, or you talking like Wallace?
I will never get annoyed of me talking like Wallace. That's really your problem. Yeah, how long until I start being like, God, I wish I hadn't sort of taunted him into acknowledging. I'm the guy on the show who interrupts, Phil. It's not your job.
Sounds like it's happening already.
Just shut up, Phil. I'm trying to introduce the show. UFC 282. That's our main focus. This is not going to work. We cannot have two incessant interrupters on one podcast. So I'm going to let you introduce UFC 282. Go.
It was a card. It happened. There were things. Paddy Pimblett continues his meteoric rise. Jairzinho Rozenstruik remains a relevant factor in the heavyweight division.
Why are these the first two things? Why are these the first two things you're talking about?
This is what people want to hear about, Connor. They want Paddy Pimblett and Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
Yeah, the Paddy one, actually. I mean, I think more people than even just the sort of the psychotically low standard having Paddy fans out there are now interested in Paddy, because all the people who weren't in that camp, and probably many who were, now are mad at him for benefiting from a robbery. But Rozenstruik, we're not going to talk about Rozenstruik. I'm so sorry to say. Let's have the main event, shall we? Jan Blachowicz, Magomed Ankalaev. This is one of my favorite kind of results. Not a draw, but relative to our predictions and our analysis, because we were both right.
Yep.
We disagreed, and we were both right. That's cool, right? Yeah, Blachowicz actually crushed Ankalaev on the feet in a way I didn't fully expect, but definitely a way that's sort of in character for a lot of the difficulties he's given other fighters. And then Ankalaev just absolutely dominated him on the floor when he finally decided, as I guessed he might take way too long, and did take way too long deciding, to actively get the fight to the ground.
That's when he was eventually sourly forced to actually rest via the meat, because his legs had both been removed.
Yeah.
Below the knee. He was like, to wrestle now, the thing that I'm good at.
Ugh.
This
Fine.
guy can't pull.
I guess I'll start dominating the fight. Jesus. Why is that such a thing at light heavyweight?
What?
You relying on your opponent to make you win the fight. That has happened like 5 times this year. I keep noticing it. There was the Paul Craig Volkan Oezdemir. There was Anthony Smith. I mean, Anthony Smith hurt his leg and pulled guard on Ankalaev in their fight. Ankalaev would not have. He had a crippled Anthony Smith, and I don't think he would have even tried to wrestle him if Anthony Smith hadn't literally insisted on him having top position.
You mean Rakic? You're forgetting. Are you getting mixed up with boring like heavyweights?
Huh? No, Ankalaev Smith.
I thought Rakic Smith was the one where his foot got hurt.
He got. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was a no. He hurt his ankle against Ankalaev. Ankalaev checked a kick, and then he put his foot down weird and fell, and it didn't look that bad. But then he returned to his corner and said, "My ankle's fucked." So it probably happened in both fights.
Okay, so he made both boring light heavyweights accidentally wrestle him.
Yes, he insisted on it.
You know what? I should be able to remember this. That's calm. Shockingly enough.
It is just a weird thing at light heavyweight, though, and obviously with Ankalaev in particular, like Jan Blachowicz made him win the fight to the extent that he did win it. Should we talk about the scorecards?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it basically all. There were two controversial decisions on this card, and they both came down to like one not particularly meaningful round of action.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it was the first one. I mean, I think there is one thing to say, which is that I don't think there's really a case. There's no case for a Jan win here.
No, I think a draw is actually kind of the perfect score, in my opinion, because that.
I mean, philosophically,
the fifth round has to be a 10-8. I know not everyone gave it a 10-8, including two of the judges, but like, that's a 10-8 round. Jan got taken down in like 30 seconds and got beaten up for the entirety of the round.
It's literally like you don't do anything for the entire round.
Yeah.
You're just getting like it doesn't have to be like full mount, round and pound, struggling to survive for the entire time.
Yeah.
Just that you didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything. And it's not like Ankalaev took that nothing and did nothing with it. Like he was. It was by far his most active and aggressive round of the entire fight. He did beat Jan up pretty badly. So yeah, that's a 10-8. I thought the first round was Jan's. The commentators were absolutely baffled by that because watching it live, even as it was going on, like I think the first actual strike they even mentioned was Ankalaev's front kick to the body. They just were barely paying attention, but I thought Blachowicz landed the cleaner strikes. He landed several hard body kicks and many hard low kicks of his own, which paid dividends. Round two, obviously Blachowicz, no question. And then people also disagreed about round three, but I thought, how do you not give that to Jan?
Round three?
Yeah.
One where Ankalaev's other leg fell off.
Yeah. Because people were like, oh, he was outstriking Jan. I think a lot of people did not notice how frequently it was a decently aggressive. I mean, I did like, to some extent, the way Ankalaev responded to having his leg chopped off at the knee. Like, he got mean. He tried to take those kicks away and keep the pressure on Jan and got a lot more active and aggressive, which I liked. And he did that in that round. He was fighting well, but people didn't really seem to pick up on how frequently they were like trading jabs and simultaneously landing on each other. And then clearly the most impactful two strikes of the round were those two low kicks that Jan landed that destroyed Ankalaev's remaining leg.
I mean, that's just
clear Blachowicz round to me.
Yeah, you can't score that for Ankalaev. That's
yeah. So I liked the draw, to be honest. I thought the one judge actually had the perfect scorecard.
I mean, I just don't have strong feelings about that first round.
Fair enough. It was close.
It's not a lot happened. I mean, it was more active than we thought it might have been.
Mm-hmm.
I thought largely Ankalaev had a bit more. Okay, so the one thing I think that really surprised me in this one was the dimensions that the stand-up fight took. Because it was like, Jan is going to be able to jab and counterpunch and kick with Ankalaev, and it's going to be just, if they're on the feet, it's mostly going to be a tit-for-tat kickboxing match. I might favor Blachowicz there, but yeah, it was just the fact that he's going to be forced to accidentally wrestle at some point that I thought would doom him.
Mm-hmm.
Really surprised me is that is the extent to which Jan's success was just the kicking game. The more the fight went on, I did feel like Ankalaev was really dictating boxing exchanges a lot in this fight, which speaks well for him as a boxer and kind of does make you somewhat understand why he's confident in his boxing game.
Yeah, I think
but
Kyle may have
it was really a very strange example of one of those fights where it was like Calvin Cater against Moicano.
Mm-hmm.
That it was just like one guy is a classy boxer and who can kick a bit, and the other guy is just like, oh, I see your weight's on that leg.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm just going to time it to the exact moment that you rock forward onto your front foot and blast you. Yeah. Yeah, I did find that interesting. Kyle, I think he overestimated Ankalaev's power in our discussion. I think you both overestimated the extent to which it's just easy to knock Blachowicz out when he's doing a reckless blitz
I never
forward.
thought he was going to get knocked out. I said that like the Blachowicz blitz was going to put him into clinch situations once Ankalaev started accidentally wrestling him.
Yeah. It didn't end up being a decisive problem, but it did, as Kyle guessed it would, very correctly. It did give Ankalaev a chance to show off some really nice counter combinations. His counter uppercut landed a lot, actually, as the fight went on. Mm-hmm. Every time Blachowicz lunged forward, that uppercut was waiting for him. Yeah, a strange fight. Just better than I thought it would be. Interesting. Completely indecisive. I
think we've realized, like, in some ways, like, light heavyweight belt has clearly decided that it
doesn't want to.
It wants to follow the path of Budo now.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to wait for Yuri.
Yeah.
Whatever happens with something fucked up is going to happen with with Glover against fighting.
Glover Jamal Hill. This fight happened. Ankalaev was so pissed. Jan, by the way, incredibly gracious. Was like, no, they should give him the belt. I don't feel like I won. Even though, had this been the originally scheduled 3-round fight for which they were preparing, he would have won very clearly.
He would have ended it crippled.
He would have absolutely dominated it. He was still like, no, Ankalaev should be champ, and Ankalaev was not gracious about it. He's like, yeah, whatever, shut up, Jan. I should be champ. And then instantly they decide to offer the belt to someone else. That's such a kick in the fucking teeth to Ankalaev. I mean,
yeah. Dude, it is kind of funny the way it was.
It's ridiculous.
There's so many times when like someone's been sort of anointed a title challenger, and they've failed to get to the belt due to like judging or something weird happening. Shogun or some ways Yoel or like tons of like times when people have been and they've just been like, oh yeah, redo it. I mean, the Moreno versus Figueiredo fight.
Yeah.
Every time they're just like, oh yeah, go back, run it back. Come on, guys, go for it. Then Ankalaev, he just gets there, and clearly a fight that, if nothing else, even if he didn't win it, even if it is a draw, it's still a fight where you're like, he was really easily winning at the end, and he probably really could have started really easily winning much earlier in the fight had he sort of had that in his had that game plan. Then they're just like, no, back of the line, mate.
Yeah, it was like a 10-fight winning streak. It took him so long to get here. I'm sorry. Part of this is vicarious pleasure because we talked about this multiple times. The particular people who are like fanatically into Ankalaev simply because of the part of the world he's from, and or the religion he espouses, both very silly reasons to root for a fighter, in my opinion. I don't even like the idea of rooting for somebody just because they're from your country or your hometown. Have a better reason. If Matt Brown, being from almost Cincinnati, Ohio, was boring, I wouldn't be a fan. It adds a little something that he's from my hometown, but come on. You still got to be a fighter worth following. I think everyone would agree. Matt Brown's a fighter worth being a fan of. Anyway, it does make it extra sort of savory that this result, just knowing that those people's hopes have been dashed in such a silly and frankly unfair way. Because, any other circumstances, Ankalaev should absolutely get another shot, and he just doesn't get to have it.
Yeah, I mean, I find it more satisfying. Like, I don't really care about those people at all. It's just, in any way. It's just more, the by that those people, I mean, insane fans in general.
Yeah,
it's more just that, like, that's what you get. If you see someone and you like see him fight Glover Teixeira, and you see him over grab a single leg and simply upend him on his own head because he's got like 70% of his body mass in his shoulders.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm going to wait until I am near crippled to do this myself. And then when I do, it's exactly as easy as it was when that 80-year-old man did it. Like, it's what you get. Like, you don't get another shot for that level of, like, I mean, becoming, and it has to be said, another nominee in 2022's crowded worst brain thinking category.
Really, it really is becoming very crowded.
It's all the worse because everyone could see it coming.
Yeah. It's such a weirdly in character kind of thing, and yeah, you earned it. This is the result you earned, Magomed. I'm sorry, man. That's how it works. You got to go out there and win the goddamn fight. I feel he's worse, and he's not as good a fighter, and his problems are more mystifying to me. But it's exactly how I feel about, like, I don't think Adesanya should get an immediate rematch against Pereira. You didn't fight right. You gave him the chance to win on a platter. Why do that? Bad. So yeah, that's also another reason that it is vindictively funny. I guess that's really all there is to say about it. I mean, technically speaking, yeah, Ankalaev showed quite good boxing, as he basically has during this whole run. Again, I think the fact that he actually ended up in trouble, as people pointed out, he did in the Krylov fight as well, it did actually force him to sort of take action. And even though still a shocking amount of that action was entirely on the feet, like, why he wasn't shooting takedowns like mad the moment his leg got fucked up, I have no idea. But still, his aggressive boxing was quite good. And I liked seeing it.
As said, like, the frustrations with Ankalaev are certainly not, like, technical in nature. He is a genuinely good fighter.
No doubt.
He's just an extremely frustrating one.
He's a very good technician. It's his process is confounding and ineffective. He should be a dominant force, being a more than good enough athlete and a phenomenal technician basically everywhere, yet he isn't. It's a Leon Edwards kind of thing. What is going on here? Yeah. Except
without even the ground game, or like the aggressive wrestling of Leon.
That's true. Well, Leon's the opposite story. He started as a striker. So now his thing that he has to do against everyone no matter what is his B game too, technically. But I think he's possibly better at his B game than Ankalaev is at his.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's take a break then. When we come back, Paddy the Baddie decision. Another one where we get to talk about scorecards. Let's not focus on it entirely because I'd much rather make fun of Paddy Pimblett striking. We had Dricus du Plessis versus Darren Till. Was an absolutely outrageous fight. Topuria versus Mitchell was not the result we expected, but still very interesting and a super impressive win. There's a lot to talk about from this undercard. We're going to get into it after this.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to this week's Heavy Hands. If you like what you hear, please consider pledging to support the podcast on Patreon. Patreon is basically continuous crowdfunding. You sign up to contribute a certain amount per month to help us with production costs and the like, and in return you get rewards ranging from a mention on the Heavy Hands website to a question or topic of your choice being discussed on the show. We have a lot more in the works to reward you for your help, and we appreciate every contribution. No amount is too small. Just head over to patreon.com and find how you can help out, the only show dedicated to the finer points of face punching. Now let's get back to it.
All right, welcome back to Heavy Hands. We are on to the, and I don't use this term lightly, the co-main event of this pay-per-view card. That's right. Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon was the co-main event of a pay-per-view card. And boy, did it look like the opening fight of an LFA main card. This was not like from moment one. You're like, this is not co-main event material. This is not what a UFC co-main is supposed to look like. Goofy. Goofy ass fight.
Said this on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've slightly graded my opinion of Paddy Pimblett after this fight.
You've upgraded it.
Yeah, I think he's slightly better than I did. Some people were like, a typical member of the MMA media, like getting caught up in the hype, and I'm just like, I don't know how bad I thought Paddy Pimblett was before this.
Yeah, this one he barely lost.
Yeah. If you told me like Paddy Pimblett's going to win a round against Jared Gordon on the feet, and he's not going to do it by like rocking him with a flying knee or something, I'd have been like,
yeah,
really, he's done that? Oh,
wow.
I mean, I guess it's actually more of a balance thing, because I'm going to give Paddy more points for his technical striking than I gave him, and less for his fight IQ.
And for his grappling, because he was also completely incapable of out-wrestling and out-grappling Jared Gordon. A guy who, while a perfectly solid offensive wrestler and grappler, and a decent scrambler for somebody who's not a world-class athlete, basically gets taken down by every single person he fights. And Paddy couldn't do it. So for me, this is a balancing performance. I'm with you.
Yeah.
his awful striking, which I think very clearly benefited from the fact he looked twice Jared Gordon's size. He looked huge compared to Gordon. And I thought Gordon was very clearly feeling that right off the bat, because he looked really timid for the first 45 seconds, 60 seconds or so of this fight. Like, even after landing the first embarrassingly clean left hook, he was still like biting on feints and twitching, because that's how it feels to fight somebody who is that much bigger than you. Paddy looked massive.
I mean, in the second round, Paddy was just like, I could just kick this guy from miles away because
Yeah.
I'm way bigger than him.
Yeah, exactly.
He basically won the round based on that.
Uh-huh.
I don't need to box with him, and he's not going to like run through my kicks to get at me, because he's obviously too twitchy for that.
Yeah. And also backing him up with horrible, hideous flurries where most of the shots didn't even land, but they did put Gordon completely defensive. He didn't win this. The portions of the striking he won in this fight were not on the counter, generally.
Cool.
They were building combinations, running forward, leaping left hooks, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, I thought Paddy looked like shit, to be honest. I felt, finally, he looks as bad, he's doing as bad as he is at fighting. I just don't think he's very good.
Oh, he isn't. I mean, that's I would before this, I would have put like, this was a perfectly booked fight. Jared Gordon,
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
it turned out to be so, because Jared Gordon is exactly the kind of person who is about as good, I mean that not in a disparaging way to Jared Gordon, as Paddy Pimblett, because obviously, he's got a massive size disadvantage. He's less athletic than him. He's obviously better than Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah.
But,
He's basically the ceiling for how far Paddy Pimblett's current skills can take him.
Yeah, he is exactly the kind of fight where I would look at it and I would just be like, ooh, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 50-50 fight.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that I would have expected Paddy Pimblett's 50-50 come from a wild ground exchange to happen.
Right.
Happening, and then, Gordon getting submitted.
Yeah. But I insist that as much as you might improve your opinion of his striking, where he was able to temporarily confound a much smaller opponent,
Can't punch at all.
you can't. Yeah, you have to downgrade your opinion of his wrestling and grappling. I mean, he got out grappled by Jared Gordon. He couldn't get a single takedown. I don't think he got one, did he?
I don't think so. he got some top position in the third round, but that was off of Gordon's own fatal takedown, right?
Yeah, Jared Gordon's takedown defense, excuse me, is historically 61%. So, not great. Grant Dawson took him down 7 times. Joe Selecki took him down 4 times. Paddy Pimblett, 0 takedowns. Attempted 3, missed on every single one of them. Gordon, meanwhile, took him down 3 times out of 6. That's embarrassing. As much as you might be like, wow, this striking might be somewhat effective in exactly the perfect circumstances. He couldn't.
I didn't say that. I didn't say how he improved his. I didn't think his striking was much better.
It's a slight upgrade, but the wrestling and grappling, Jesus Christ, he's just not good, folks. It's I said this with zero irony.
That was exactly the.
Mm-hmm.
But that was exactly how everyone should always have been looking at it, right?
Yeah,
People can't be anyone looking at this who's like, man, the hype train's been destroyed. I don't know what you were looking at.
It was an utterly artificial hype train. It's.
I mean, because it's again, you should have looked at this, and everyone should have thought this guy is pretty much exactly on the same level as Jared Gordon, and that is due to the fact that he's in the above average physically.
Yeah.
Like I see a bunch of people on Twitter, and they're like, "Here's a bunch of unranked lightweights that would destroy Paddy Pimblett," and A, I can't be asked to contribute to this stuff because I don't care.
Yeah.
But B, the lists are always like super short. Like Mike Davis would obliterate him.
Yeah.
Like, probably more than half the division would crush him.
I might pick several of the people he's already beaten to win. Like, even his paths to victory in these fights are increasingly improbable and Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I said this with zero irony, and I don't even think I'm overstating it. I think in the UFC, Paddy Pimblett, he represents the widest gap between skill and popularity since CM Punk.
That is obviously true.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone.
There's no one else. Somebody else said, what about Kimbo Slice? Well, that was before CM Punk. That's just the only other. You have to pick like a meme heavyweight. This guy fights at lightweight. That's not supposed to be the point of comparison. That means you're bad.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, you could say might be able to say Derek Lewis is technically worse as an MMA fighter.
Sure. Yeah. But it's heavyweight. Even then it's heavyweight, and you get away with that shit at heavyweight. The requirements are very different from 155.
Relative to his division, for sure.
Yes.
No question.
So yeah, you either have to go to heavyweight or you go to CM Punk. And it's, that's not, none of these are flattering comparisons for a UFC lightweight. Yeah, I don't really know how much more there is to say. I mean,
we did say I mean, I want to say I didn't actually think there was anything particularly egregious about the decision either.
Of course you didn't. Ugh.
I didn't want Paddy Pimblett to win. I wanted Jared Gordon to win because it would be funny.
This is the classic contrarianism of the centrist. Actually, I'm the adult in the room who thinks that everybody's making a fuss for no reason. It was a bad decision, Phil. You're wrong. It was bad.
I mean, no. Okay, let me clarify. Someone gave Pimblett the first round. This is very bad.
Ludicrous. I think 2 of the judges gave him the first round.
That is just stupid. He's just
horrible.
He's mostly just walking around getting his. I mean, it's not even like you can miss the strikes landing because his hair flies up in the air whenever it happens.
Literally amplifies every clean strike he has.
He stands bolt upright and has an expression of utter shock on his face. But that's an easy Gordon round. I think Pimblett probably won the second round. I mean, the round that he's going to win on optics anyway, because ends with Gordon backing away and Bullet's chasing him down, throwing combinations. Are they landing? No, but it's the kind of thing where, like, if you leave an optic like that in an otherwise competitive round, you're probably going to lose it, and you might as well accept that.
Yep.
And then the third round, just nothing happens. It's just a huge pile of dog shit.
Yeah.
Like,
nothing happens except that one person is controlling.
Yeah.
What do you do when? What are you supposed to consider when offense is equal?
Yeah, but like you have to. That's the thing, is like, to win a control decision like that, when it's not even top position, it's holding someone against the fence. You have to make sure nothing happens.
Yeah, but what else is there to go on? Nothing effective happens.
But Paddy lands some knees to the thigh.
So does Jared.
And no, he doesn't. He lands much less knees to the thigh. And he sort of takes back control. And I was just like, all right, if you want to give that to him, fine. No one won that round. It's a 10-10 round.
I'm sorry, man. I think people. You're not the only person who's pointed that out. You know, just so you know what kind of evil company you're keeping right now. Ryan Wagner also agreed with you. He thought Paddy won the third round. So you're agreeing with Fight Site scorecards right now. I'll just have you know.
But Fight Site scorecards are only bad when it's for people that they like.
Well, I don't know. Again, there's all these shades of contrarianism with those guys too. Going to be like, actually,
so irony poisoned.
Everyone's so upset about this that actually I can see a reasonable case for the stupid thing. I'm sorry. A round in which you are held against the cage for 4 minutes, you score maybe twice as many, but of an utterly ineffectual category of strike. Like, even knees to the thigh, those get a lot more weight if you're actually in the leveraged position when you're scoring them. They mean fuck all when your ass is pressed against the fence and you can't generate an ounce of power. You may as well be slapping the person on the top of the head. It means nothing. That's not offense. So to me, this is like very much the discussion we had when we agreed that it's right to favor somebody in the absence of all else. It's right to just automatically favor somebody with top position. I think intrinsically most people watched that round and thought, how did Paddy win it? No. That's not how you win a fight. You can't win a fight getting held against the fence and making no successful effort to escape and landing nothing of consequence. You just can't win a round that way. So I think it was a terrible decision, frankly. But that's just my opinion, I suppose.
It's just for me, it was just an absolute nothing round where nothing happened, and thought Jared Gordon was just stupid for.
I agree.
Wasting time like that. She agreed with Dana. It's like, what are you doing? Just hit him.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Just hit him.
You've proven.
He's tire him out for the beginning bit of it, and then just hit him.
He was already gassing after the second round because he had to put so much energy into his completely inefficient striking to still sort of scrape by that round. Yeah, Gordon should have mixed in the takedown attempts, mixed in the wall install, and then broken and just nailed Paddy. One clean left hook. You agree, right? One big left hook from Gordon.
One punch would have won that round.
No question he would have won the round. So yeah, it was a bad decision making from Gordon, but it was what it was. Let's talk about something else.
So I want to say, like, everyone is obviously increasingly jumping on my cool idea of having him fight Tony Ferguson, and as a contrarian, I now no longer agree with this.
Of course you don't. Now you want him to, what do you want? I want him to get slaughtered. I'm sorry. I think, fuck it.
Oh, it's funnier this way if he keeps winning fights in the most unconvincing way possible.
That's true. It's funny.
There's only one person he can fight.
Uh-huh.
A bunch of people have listed this as someone who would completely annihilate him with no issues, which makes me wonder if they've watched his fights. Time for Michael Johnson. Because
I think now is the time in Michael Johnson's career when I would actually be reasonably confident in him beating Paddy Pimblett.
That's what Michael Johnson wants you to think.
That's true. But based on that last fight, that was the most veteran performance I've ever seen out of MJ yet. God knows he would have a field day with his still, relatively speaking, lightning quick counterpunching. He would make Paddy pay for those forward flurries in the most hilarious ways imaginable.
Also,
I like that fight.
So there'd be a strong chance that he would just
Yeah.
no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, MJ it.
8 minutes into the fight, after absolutely crushing him, just literally explode.
Yeah.
In the center of the cage, splattering viscera everywhere.
And they have no choice but to raise Paddy's hand.
Yeah.
And Paddy's like, no, it wasn't close, mate. No, it wasn't close. What the fuck was he on about, by the way? Joe Rogan's like, boy, that was a close one, Paddy. No, it wasn't. No. Shut the fuck up, dude. I'm done with Paddy Pimblett, all right? He fully annoys me now. I resisted it. My own contrarianism, I was like, oh, actually, he's fine, I guess. No, I can't pretend anymore. He sucks. He's annoying. That was the most annoying response to that fight. You know?
I've outlasted you as a contrarian.
The contest of endurance finally comes to an end. I just, like, I don't know. I'm focusing on these things a lot lately. Not really what I want this show to be about, but what the fuck ever. The guys who are barely winning the fight or not winning the fight and waste time taunting, those guys have been getting on my nerves lately. And then just the contrast between, like, Jan Blachowicz classily handling a draw that I felt he more than earned. Like, whatever you think of how to score the fight, you can't really argue that it's not a viable score. And completely graceful in defeat. You know, all these things that me, a true basic bitch of sports fandom, wants out of a fighter. And then Paddy Pimblett, just the utter antithesis of that. No humility. Can't even concede that he had a competitive fight with the guy who most people think earned a decision over him. Is embarrassing. That's annoying behavior. It really is. You can't get up there and be like, yeah, tough one. What the fuck? What's wrong with you? You're an annoying person. I'm sorry.
I didn't watch his post-fight interview. I'm not stupid.
It was one of the ones I watched live. I watched like the last two as it was happening, so I didn't skip it. I don't know. You're an annoying person. You don't deserve to have friends. That's not a socially acceptable behavior. These are the circumstances in which you get up there and you say to yourself, I'm a grown man, and you do what grown men are supposed to do. You show respect and an ounce of humility. Even all the most completely insufferable fighters, even Conor McGregor, these guys get up there and are like, when the fight's difficult, they acknowledge it, they give their opponent respect. Even if it's fake. Michael Bisping goes up there and is like, after the fight, the feud is ended, all right, good work to my opponent. Unless it's, someone he has a genuine, serious personal issue with, like Luke Rockhold, in which case I totally get it. What did Jared Gordon do to get on Paddy Pimblett? Nothing. He just can't acknowledge that he's not good at fighting. Fuck him. Fuck him, Phil.
Did you hear him saying that he would have done better than Charles Oliveira against Islam?
Did he really?
Yeah, he was like, I would have done better than that.
Make that fight.
That was embarrassing.
He's earned it. He's a huge star. He's the next Conor McGregor. Make that fight.
Good to know that the most annoying members of our aisles can still break you.
That's all you got left. Yeah, it used to be, the British are coming, the British are coming. Now it's, oh my God, the British are coming. Who invited them? Did you?
Jesus.
No, I didn't invite them. Jesus. Okay. Let's take a break, I guess, and we're going to see what we can cram into segment 3. Ponzinibbio Morono was a pretty interesting fight. Very cathartic one for Ponzinibbio fans, but I don't know how much I really have to say about it. I really want to talk about Duplessis Till. So yeah. Let's do that next, after this.
Financial support is fantastic, but there are other, even easier ways to support Heavy Hands. Perhaps the best is by spreading the word. We know our fan base. You're all cool, popular people with serious social media presences. You're tastemakers and trendsetters. Okay, there are one or two of you that don't fit that description. You know who you are, but no matter what, you can always help us out by telling folks about the show. And you can also give us a positive rating and review on iTunes and Stitcher, things like that. We rely on word of mouth and positive feedback to grow and improve, so thank you very much for your time and your help. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Heavy Hands. On to the middleweights on the 282 main card. Dricus du Plessis, Darren Till. Where to begin?
Dricus du Plessis is, I think, the greatest exponent of a certain type of middleweight that we've seen throughout the years, including, the sadly missed Elias Theodorou, also Ian Heinisch, of
Tim Boach.
I don't even think Tim Boach, because Tim Boach is good at stuff. I think he's the middleweight who is not good at anything. We talked about, I think Zane has described middleweight as being the division of the singular skill set. Plessis is like Heinisch or Theodorou in that his singular skill set is trying really hard.
Yeah, this is what you get in absence of a real all-terrain fighter at middleweight, is a guy who, boy, is he giving it his all,
He's just...
You go, buddy.
God damn it, is he trying to strike and trying to grapple, and he's trying really hard.
He tries so hard that it's at moments you're like, maybe he is okay at this. And then something else happens. And you revise your opinion immediately. I love him. I love him so much. His fighting style.
I'm really enjoying him.
It's so weird.
He's just like... He's so bad, yet so effective.
He has... His footwork is hysterical.
Yeah.
Like, even before he hits the... Obviously, for him, completely customary point of the fight, where he gets utterly exhausted and has to, lose 3 minutes just to recover his energy. Even before that point, at the very beginning of this fight, Darren Till was pressuring, and he gives a feint, and du Plessis bites and retreats, which is fine when you're not sure what the feints and the strikes, how to distinguish them yet. Excuse me. But the manner of his retreat, fully fresh, was to stumble backwards. He can't move around without stumbling. He has, he has zero footwork. He crosses his feet constantly. There is not... His stance only exists when he's standing still. And then otherwise he's just sort of, awkwardly, the guy, he must roll his ankles 5 times a day. He must have very flexible, resilient ankles, because that's not how a person is even supposed to walk outside the context of a fight. He can't walk right. He's so weirdly uncoordinated.
It's like everything he does, every joint is simply bounding with so much pointless energy. He's just fights like he's out of the video game Quap.
Yes, he's being controlled by 4 different people, none of whom can communicate with each other. It's like that kind of thing.
Each one of them has their mouse sensitivity set way too high.
So which makes this fight, I think, to date, the most massive indictment of Darren Till's entire career trajectory.
I mean, it's such a brutally fateful matchup to turn into, isn't it?
Yes.
Imagine if you've spent all your, you've spent your career building towards basically this bizarrely honed down skill set where it's just I'm giant, and going to be a left hand, or maybe it won't be a left hand. Psych, it is a left hand.
Yep. Psych is actually a slightly different kind of left hand. Yeah, but it's always a left hand.
Yeah. And that's basically your entire thing, is that you just spent years and years doing that. And you, at some point, have become incredibly convinced that this is super good.
Yeah.
And that this is going to carry you to not just a single belt, but to believe he said he was going to win 3 belts up to light heavyweight. Then you just find this guy and he's just like, fighting's great, I'm going to do all of it. Do all the fighting, way! Now he just bundles into you and you just utterly annihilate.
Now, Phil, we are supposed to be doing the accents per YouTube comment request of the fighters we discussed now, so let me hear yourself. You're the hardest accent to replicate. Let me hear your South African.
Hell no. You're the one who embarrasses themselves doing the accents.
Fighting's... Oh, it's so weird. It's pseudo-Australian. It's very strange. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I have to watch District 9.
Yeah, I used to hang out with some South Africans, so I might be able to do it given time to think about it, but
it's a tough one.
Not going to.
I do enjoy the accent a lot. I also found this fascinating. Dricus du Plessis in the post-fight interview was like, first of all, he seems like a really earnest, reasonably intelligent guy who's probably kind of annoying because he just went on talking for way too long.
His brain is being delivered too much energy, just like everything else.
It is. Yeah, he's like, a little hyper. But for a guy whose style is as stupid as his, he looks like a caveman with like a nerve disorder. Like the technology does not exist to treat whatever is wrong with him. But boy, has he had his hard life prepared him physically to cope as best he can. And despite that, his fights are utter messes every single time. He was incredibly like clear-eyed. You don't get this from people who are much more technical fighters. Like immediately after they're like, I don't remember what happened. I have to watch. He remembered accurately like the entire sequence of events in every round. To the extent that he kept recalling little specific details. Like right at the end, and Joe was like, yeah, this happened in the third round. He was like, oh, but I landed some pretty good jabs in the second minute of that round. It's like, yeah, he did. How does he remember it that clearly?
That is bizarre.
It was really strange. It was striking. He's apparently incredibly calm and aware of what's happening at every moment in the fight to be able to recall it that way. And it just doesn't.
He is the bicameral man.
Yes.
Just
yes.
like he's just got like his conscious mind is just completely decoupled from what he's actually doing.
Yes. Yeah. The whispering wall. He has no idea. He has no control, but he is like a patient observer of all of the actions he's undertaking. Very strange and interesting. I'm fascinated by him. It's such an unusual thing for fighters. And to see it coupled with this completely reckless style where, again, every fight, there comes a point in the second round where he's been trying way too hard to do everything and he's exhausted and he's getting hit clean.
And you're like, this is the end.
Yeah.
He's reached the end of his tether because no one can do that.
But he's not even apparently panicking in those moments. He's like, this happens. Yeah. This is just what happens. I'll get my second wind. And he does. I can't explain him. But anyway, let's talk about Darren Till. Because again, Dricus du Plessis is he's one of these force of nature fighters. You can't comprehend him. His style makes no sense. Somehow it keeps working. He's one of these fighters. He just exists in his own plane. Darren Till exists in the land of mortals. And you can look at him in the context of like how a career is meant to progress, how a skill set is meant to progress. And this is I think the final nail. This is a huge indictment of how Darren Till's progression has been managed. Because he did show some of the things he's improved at in this fight. I mean, goddamn, if he didn't show any of that improved counterpunching against Dricus du fucking Plessis, he should be profoundly embarrassed. He did land some nasty counters in the second round. He's way more active on that. There were a couple moments later in the fight where he was like using his jab as its own thing. Popping 2-3 jabs out there, pivoting, trying to turn du Plessis, trying to keep him from rushing in with like defensive jabs, actually using his other hand. But it's just too little too late is the phrase that keeps coming to mind. Because There's nothing else. There's nothing else to Darren Till's game. And I found the sequence in round 2 to be the worst of all because it's his best round of the fight. He's got du Plessis right where he wants him. He has weathered the storm, the incredibly embarrassing storm he had to weather in round 1, where he appeared to have no idea what he was doing, no idea how to improve his position, kept talking to the ref to explain that actually I'm okay as du Plessis punching him in the face. And then in round 2, he has the turnaround. It's exactly, a Darren Till comeback. It's something unheard of.
Yeah, we see these.
And he's nailing du Plessis. He has him cornered. He has him literally stumbling along the fence, like a millisecond away at every moment from like getting his ankle caught in the gap between the canvas and the fence and just tearing his own foot off. And Darren Till cannot think to do anything but the most Darren Till thing ever, which is to sort of flap around with his right hand and throw a single straight left hand without a single follow-up punch, and then to shove off and get back to range to do it all over again. His own corner screaming at him to go to the body. Du Plessis guarding so high, you could land a clean punch that passes under his elbow to the nipple. That's how high his guard is. And Darren Till, because things were going well for him, he was in his comfort zone. He could only look for the left hand to the head and nothing else. That's bad, man. I don't know. There's something very pitiful about it as a comeback. That it's like, this is all you could do, man? Who led you astray? How have you developed such a limited game over such a long career? I don't know. That was damning to me.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of this I found myself thinking of the Kelvin Gastelum fight between him and Till, as it was sort of this crossroads fight between the two of them, where I was like, which way are they going now? Mm-hmm. Which one of them is going to turn out to be, the bust of the two? And as it turned out, both of them.
Which of these two guys who have just never gotten better will continue? Yeah.
It was also, from very different perspectives. In the Gastelum was someone who I think always had a tremendous amount of potential. In that he was a natural grappler, and he had, naturally had a lot of he had natural cardio and take the back, and he also had lightning fast hands and all this other kind of stuff. Tremendous chin, and it was simply that he ate himself out of his division.
Yeah,
and stagnated technically. Whereas Till was someone where even his success was built on such narrow margins, and also just on being fucking huge. See him fighting people at size parity, and it's just not working, is it?
No, he can't intimidate his opponents anymore, and it really underscores how hugely important a part of his game that was.
Yeah, I mean, he used to talk about, I'm a light heavy, he used to brag saying I'm a light heavyweight out there, and he was like, yes, true. If you're not, and that's just the case. I mean, he's moved up to middleweight, but he's still slow there.
Yep,
his foot slow. He can't wrestle.
His wrestling is awful.
Can't combination punch. He's not a good grappler in really any way. As you said, damning. He's never sniffing anything like title contention again.
No, absolutely not.
You don't need to be psychic to say this kind of stuff. We're not talking someone he's almost 30 years old. He's been fighting for a long time. His skill set development would have to take an unprecedented upwards turn. It's not like he's been building out more things.
No, he's added in the way that you want to see a veteran add. late in their career. The things Michael Johnson has added to his game, those kinds of subtleties and nuances, little new shades, new wrinkles. But Darren Till doesn't have a complete game yet. Now is not the time to be honing and fine-tuning. Now is the time to be radically adding tools. And literally, the wrestling was so bad in this fight.
This is reportedly after he's been spending all his time with Khamzat.
Yeah, what's going on? He's
just not good at it.
Yeah,
he's just a cumbersome dude.
Yeah, he just doesn't.
Main thing.
He just doesn't know how to sprawl. The most basic thing of wrestling defense. Like there was a point the takedown in round 3. I mean, the first one was embarrassing enough. Like Duplessis just runs out, just instantly gets him down, and hilariously, hammers him with the same hand 90 punches in a row. But the one in round 3, I think Duplessis, he just basically lunged forward and shot, and it was a relatively clumsy shot on a double leg. And Darren Till immediately grabs a whizzer, immediately turns, tries to sort of throw Duplessis by. These are the right elements. But then he doesn't move his feet in time. He does the turn, he's got the whizzer, and then he starts digging for an underhook while Duplessis is still locked onto his legs and is already driving back through on this new angle, and Till just does not sprawl. DC pointed this out too. He's like, wait, something's wrong. Darren Till leans into Duplessis when he shoots for a takedown, but he doesn't get his legs back. He just doesn't have the instinct to do the most basic first layer takedown defense. What's he been training? I just don't get it. They can't sprawl. That's 6 months of sprawl training would not be enough. He need he's beyond crash course at this point.
Yeah. Also, credit to Dricus Duplessis for being smarter than Magomed Ankalaev.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. He went in there with something to prove. He wanted to test every part of Darren Till's game. He's like, I've seen this guy get taken down. Why wouldn't I do that? And then also shows just weirdly specific moments of perceptive application of skill. The jabs he found for only 2.5 windows of the fight, but boy, was he rocking Darren Till's shit when he threw his jab. It's a devastating power jab. Accurate. Great step forward. It's like a hyped up version of GSP's jab. Nice. And then
not get too crazy.
Well, it's the same kind. It's like that drop step.
That's not to call it a hyped up.
In terms of power. Sorry, please.
Yeah.
Just that it hits harder than GSP's jab, but it's not nearly as subtle, and the game surrounding it is an absolute shit show, but he's fascinating. He really is. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's close things up then with our last main card fight, or rather our first main card fight. We talked about this one. It was, I think, the only other fight from 282 that we previewed on our bonus episode last week, and surprise, surprise, we got it wrong. We thought Bryce Mitchell would surprise Ilia Topuria with the underrated quality of his striking, which, by the way, there were still moments where it was like Bryce Mitchell was adapting to what was happening. Not in a way it turned out that I don't think he could sustain. And he did have one moment of hitting a super clean takedown, which I thought was very nicely set up and well read off of Topuria's head movement. He got Topuria moving, and this is a thing you see boxers do all the time, when say, was it Lomachenko Rigondeaux, where Rigondeaux is this great head movement, great defense, but Lomachenko understood that if he triggers that defensive reaction, there's going to be a split second there where he can just essentially completely outmaneuver Rigondeaux because his feet are planted. He's committed to moving his head. He's lowered his base. I am now the more agile fighter. And Mitchell did that with a takedown transition, which I thought was really smooth. Quick little throwaway punches, got Topuria slipping, 2 slips, and then he just crashed into him, and Topuria couldn't move his feet quickly enough. Really nice takedown. But overall, Topuria crushed him. Guy's good.
Is. This was a really impressive performance. I think what were the differences?
It's boxing.
I think mainly it was simply that Poirier could counterpunch and punish Bryce's level changes, whilst also being able to jab with him.
Yeah.
Leaving Mitchell with no safe zone from which to initiate the fight. And I think some other people have said this, but it's difficult to. I thought they might just be hating on him, but I think Mitchell really does need people to fear the threat of his takedown in order for things to work for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he's not making them react, and he doesn't seem to have he doesn't really have defensive reactions of his own.
No, he can counter. He can time things really well. He can interrupt, but yeah, he needs initiative, and the takedowns are a big part of that. And again, I was impressed with. I don't think Mitchell came off really badly here. I think this was just a stellar showing from Topuria, more than anything else. But Mitchell, he did try to establish that initiative late into the first round and continued into the second, where he was pressuring, throwing combinations, making Topuria react and then surprising him in a number of ways, both with clean strikes and with the takedowns. It's just that, Topuria just doesn't care in the same way about getting hit. He doesn't have to care because Mitchell doesn't hit as hard as him, not even close. And he does actually have reasonably good boxing defense. I honestly think, as has been the case previously, the only thing wrong with this performance at all from Topuria is he has a clear tendency to go nuts and stop respecting his opponent and overthrow wildly. He knows he's a power puncher. He knows he can wreck people. He committed those errors, and it could have lost him the fight. I mean, where there was literally a time where he overswung on a left hook and fell down. That's how hard he threw the punch.
Because once if he's tightened up when he is jabbing,
yes,
and, if he's just throwing combinations in the pocket, he looks like a genuinely very good boxer.
Absolutely.
A lot of the time he is just trying to wipe people out with a single punch.
Yeah.
The same thing is right at the beginning of the fight, it was when he just low kicked Mitchell off his feet.
Yeah.
Immediately, I just thought, oh shit, the fight's over. Kind of thing. He's just going to win this from here. If you can do that, fights.
Yeah.
All you have to do is basically defend takedowns and then punt his leg out. And then he just never did it again.
Yep. Didn't even think of it.
He was just yeah, that was easy. All right, time to go back to trying to punch this guy as hard as I can.
Yeah. And to his credit, he does have an attritive, more strategic part of striking is baked into his game. In the phase of boxing, he punches everybody's bodies. He's not a guy who has to be reminded to do so. But yeah, anything outside of the boxing game, clearly he can't remember to commit to. He wants to go in there and box. He wants to pressure people, get in the pocket, and throw combinations with his hands. But he's really good at it, honestly. And even when he's overthrowing, he can sort of afford to because he's very tough and he hits like a truck. But I would love to see him mature. That's really the only thing I feel like I really want to see as he gets a little older and gets more experience. Is just commit to just sort of throwing at 70% power all the time. He's still going to wreck people. And several
even Aldo was not.
Yeah.
Aldo and Mendes were not like this.
No.
People who have been criticized for like overthrowing on their punches, or Peter Yan can throw punches like this, but it's not what he does.
Right.
It's not what he does best.
And they are usually like strategic decisions. Like, now I'm going to have to gamble. They know they're gambling when they do it. I don't think Topuria knows yet that he is creating opportunities for his opponent by trying too hard to knock them out. Yeah, there was another one in this fight too. I think a like slip into like a sort of head and arm takedown attempt from Bryce Mitchell. Not like a head and arm throw, but like grab the head and arm and then trip kind of takedown, which is a great transition from boxing to wrestling. I'd like to see more of in MMA. And the opportunity, Topuria showed incredible takedown defense and scrambling, but the opportunity only presented itself to Mitchell because Topuria was mindlessly flinging his weight forward with his punches. That's the only criticism. Maybe he'll have to...
He's just a thrilling prospect to watch in the division.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, he should be getting like Thailand eliminator fights.
I say I'll do you one better. He should fight the biggest rising star in the UFC. There's bad blood, Phil. It's time for Topuria Pimblett. Catch weight fight.
Different weight classes.
Doesn't matter. They hate each other. Topuria has already said.
Paddy's so big.
Yeah, that's true. It might win in the fight.
The size difference would be too much.
Yeah. Topuria has already said in no uncertain terms, I'll go up in weight. I want to kill Paddy
He's gone
Pimblett.
up in weight. He fought what's his face?
Yeah, Jai Herbert. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he'll do it again to fight Paddy. Absolutely. Paddy's talked all the shit. Make the fight. Why not?
I think Paddy won't accept it.
I think you're probably right. Even that one.
I think he knows that he's too big for Topuria, and that
the
spirit of Bushido would be against it.
Wouldn't be fair. Mm-hmm. No, yeah, absolutely. If it's not that, which I think would be like potentially a star-making performance for Topuria, who deserves to be a star. He's a very exciting and very good fighter. Then make an actual rankings jump. And put him in there against... I think he said he wants to fight Brian Ortega. Do it. Why not?
Go for it. Be a hell of a fight.
Yep. Ortega, Allen, Cater, when he recovers, whatever. He should be fighting top featherweights right now.
Yes.
All right. And Bryce Mitchell will be back. I have no doubt. Again, I just think this was a really rough matchup for him in ways I didn't anticipate. I think he still had moments where he showed he's a very good, very resourceful fighter. He just can't beat Topuria.
He complained. He said afterwards that he had the flu and stuff. I don't really buy it.
I mean, it is the one thing I will say is that there was a momentum shift underway, and it basically flamed out when it started to look like Mitchell was completely gassed. Like the effort of having to actually pressure and put combinations together and try on takedowns that were not, unanimously succeeding. There was a moment literally right before the knockdown that began the ending sequence where Mitchell missed on a shot or blocked a counter, I think, and went stumbling into the cage and was gasping for breath.
Yeah, he just had the mouth open, staring eyes of Lucas Duplessis seconds into a fight.
And maybe that's just a thing that he's yet to solve in his style because, as we pointed out, there was a moment like that against Edson Barboza, too, who hit him in the body 3 or 4 times, whacked him to the ribs, and Mitchell basically just got on his bike and wasted 25 seconds at the end of round 2. Quite intelligently, I thought, but he needed time to recover. So maybe, again, Topuria was hitting his body and was hitting him with massive shots everywhere else. Maybe he also deserves credit for gassing Mitchell. But it's not impossible for me to believe that maybe Mitchell was his gas tank was worse than it would have been otherwise. People with the flu, I mean, that happens.
Yeah.
Aldo had the flu against Hominick, right? And that was one of his more catastrophic gassing incidents.
Also, like, you know, often great fighters find ways to win regardless, and
yeah.
You know, history tends to pan out. It's rare you can really think of times when history of the sport has been changed because someone was super ill
it's
before
true.
a fight or whatever.
Pretty sure
they just find they're going to win. They find a way to win.
Pretty sure GSP Diaz was another one where GSP had the flu.
Yeah,
and he still won. Yep. So yeah, incredible win for Topuria. I want to see more. I want to see more, and I want to see tougher opponents. And I also still want to see more out of Bryce Mitchell. He's very good. But he's also kind of a dumb dickhead, so it was also kind of fun to see him lose.
Yeah. Topuria was talking, he was like, I'm going to smash his head as flat as he thinks the world is, kind of stuff. So you got to respect it, especially in Spanish. It sounds cool. Yeah,
that's wonderful trash talk. I also did enjoy his presser moment in the lead up. I think it was either to Mitchell or to Patty. He was like, he say I no talk English. Fuck you in English. That's English for you. That was pretty good. All right. Well, I think that is really all that we need to talk about from UFC 282. There was some other interesting stuff. Again, Ponzinibbio Morono. Shabazian. I really enjoyed Shabazian getting back on the winning track. Curtis Buckley was awesome in exactly the way we thought it would be. Billy Quarantillo beat Alexander Hernandez in. This is going to have to be a new handy. I think somebody suggested the Michael Johnson versus Darren Till award.
Yeah,
commemorating fights in which sort of both fighters just like meet their fates, seemingly irrespective of one another's presence. That was a great one true outcome fight there. But I think we've covered enough. Find us on Twitter, folks, at Evil Greg Jackson, at Boxing Bush. First one's Phil, second one's me. Go to our Patreon. We had a little bonus last week. We're going to have more stuff coming in the future. I need to get in touch with Kyle, but we are planning to do that Gonzalez Estrada trilogy commentary where we talk about all three fights in sequence. That's going to be fun. And that'll do it for this week's Heavy Hands. We'll see you next week when we will be recapping the as yet unmentioned events of Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland. A pretty solid fight night card, to be honest. It's got some really interesting matchups, so hopefully there will be a lot to discuss. And until then,
be headlined by Tsarukian Ismagulov,
right?
No, that's the card. That's the fight to look out for. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
Fantastic fight. Caceres Arosa is awesome. Dober versus Bobby Green. These are cool fights. So we'll have some good stuff to talk to you about next week. And until then, if you came here today for the finer points of face punching, you came to the right place. This has been Heavy Hands.